before we set out, we made the distinction between tourism and what we might call travel. Travel as a means of contemplation. But what is travel for those who have the ability to see behind the scenes? Well, Ibn Arabi tells us that his travel, and he did a great deal of it over the course of a long lifetime, his travel was going round witnessing the traces of the past. And with the eye of perfect vision, complete vision, that vision is a mercy. What it does is it sees that object of vision and places it in a context of gnosis. You remember, everyone is right in their beliefs, no matter what they are, but wrong in asserting that that is the whole truth. Well, beliefs about reality change over the course of time. And we tend to think that we're ever so much more intelligent now, and we've got the advantage of technology and so on and so forth, and that is why our view on reality is as it is. But on this course we're presented with quite another view, which is that reality itself is unfolding itself according to the nature of the time. So the contemplations that people had of reality, or of God if you like, have changed enormously over the times, at the same time as human nature being absolutely one. So on the one hand, we can recognize the human nature that created all these things. At the same time, we have really no conception of the way that they were able to view reality. We interpret what they did with the advantage, if you like, advantage of hindsight. But what actually gave rise to these extraordinary productions isn't like what we believe, or isn't like what we think. It came from their own world view. We have here a temple and the house of the oracle of Apollo. And Apollo, as you know, is the god of light, the sun god. And he, according to the myth, he befriended a shepherd who was so grateful for the patronage of the god that he erected a shrine to him, to Apollo the Friendly, Apollo Philesias. And Apollo granted him the gift of prophecy. Anyway, this shepherd, his name was Brancus, and his sons, the Branchidae, were the hereditary priests of this place. This, what you see, is the remains of that temple which was never finished after literally hundreds of years of building with lots of interruptions. But to go back to where we were and Ibn Arabi's travel, I hope very much that that's the kind of travel that we're aspiring to be able to see with a vision in depth these places that we come to. It's very much part of our human heritage, this. We've been through all of these degrees in order to come to this point where we are now. Where we are now is a point of unfolding that has only been got to through all the evolutions that have led up to it. So our now, our present moment, contains all of the past. And if we can look at the past in that way, it informs our present. So here, in travel, we're not coming to see something other, something exotic, alien, but we actually come to see, to be informed about ourselves. So here we have an example of a temple built to a god, which is one of the divine aspects. Light, illumination, prophecy, fortune-telling. And this is just one of the divine aspects, because of course in the pantheon what we have is a worship of God under the divine aspects, or the divine names, if you like, personifications of the divine names. And they war with each other, they get married, they have affairs and so on, because the divine names they're not in perfect harmony with one another, and sometimes they're even in conflict with one another. If they're in perfect harmony, the universe would come to a standstill. The whole point is that they're not in perfect harmony. That's why it's an evolution. Yeah. Here, though, is extremely interesting because it was never finished. And you could give many explanations for that. You know, it was too big, they ran out of money, there wasn't enough labour, there were various incursions, and so on and so forth. But the main point here is, I think, that the time for building temples had changed. When an envoy comes, such as Moses, such as Jesus, such as the Prophet Muhammad, a huge shift takes place in the way in which we contemplate reality. And this affects everybody. Not just the followers of the particular prophet or envoy, but everybody, because this envoy, in a sense, comes to the whole of humanity. It introduces a change, a radical change, seismic shift. And the prophet in question, the envoy in question, was Jesus. Have a look at this temple. Aykut has explained that with a temple you come to a sacred place, a sacred precinct. Temple is an area cut away from the rest of the land. You then ablute. If you're one of the commoners, you approach the outer bit. If you're a priest, you can come, if one of the initiated, you can come into this inner bit, and then there's an interface at this very large piece of stone. Yeah. But then there's a Holy of Holies here, which perhaps the high priest is allowed into once a year, or something like that. That's where the cult statue is kept. So there's a distinction between the profane outside and the sacred inside, and the most sacred inside the sacred. People belong to the profane, basically, unless they had the right genes. You know, they'd been born into a priestly family, in which case they could get a little bit closer. And then the Holy of the Holies was right in the heart of the temple. So the huge shift that I'm referring to at the time of Jesus is where 2 or 3 are gathered together, there I am. So it's not in the temple that God is to be found, it's in the collectivity of humanity. When people come together, the 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am amongst you. And that is a tremendous shift in understanding. It's a change in perspective, absolutely no doubt about it. And what this means is completed with the Prophet Muhammad, where all the earth is made clean for you. You can pray anywhere you like. There are no sacred places as such. The whole earth is clean, the whole earth is sacred, if you have the eyes to see it. So this distinction between sacred and profane places is eliminated. What remains is the distinction between the sacred view and the profane view, which is that of ignorance, which doesn't see. So that's where profanity is. It's in ignorance, not in the essence of the thing itself. So then we have 2 choices now left to us, which we choose. Is everything sacred, or is everything profane? And that's like the spirit of the time now. That's the choice we have now. This is our unique choice. So, just going back to that time of change, people stopped building temples all over the ancient world. The temple in Jerusalem was destroyed. This one never got finished. And the place where people gathered together became simply that. Churches are not holy places. Synagogues are not holy places. And mosques are not intrinsically holy places. They're all built for people to gather together. After Constantine and the introduction of Christianity, or rather the introduction of it as a state religion, there were, I think, 2 more emperors, and then there was Julian, who was known as the apostate, because he didn't like Christianity and he wanted to restitute the gods of his forefathers and bring back the pagan religion. And he sent a question to the oracle here. I have the oracle's response to the Emperor Julian. This was in round about 361 AD. Say to the emperor that the sumptuous residence of the gods is to be found buried in the bowels of the earth. Apollo no longer inhabits these places.